Getting right to the reading. Breaking the bad habit. If a doctor discovers that your body is not receiving the proper nutrition, he puts you on a diet. His reasoning on this is simple. He discovers that certain elements and vitamins and minerals are lacking in the chemical composition of your body. Therefore, he would restore their proper balance by having you eat certain foods that contain them in abundance. In any event, he asks you to exercise a conscious desire, a conscious choice in the food you eat, selecting some and rejecting a great many more. It is just such a procedure confined entirely to the mind and spirit, which we shall ask you to adopt for the next 30 days. In other words, we're asking that you go on a 30-day mental diet. For 30 days, 1 month, you are not to accept a single negative thought nor dwell on a single negative premise. This does not mean that such thoughts or ideas will not occur to you. They most certainly will occur, as frequently or even more so than they have all your life. This simply means that you will refuse to accept any of them, discarding them immediately as they occur as fictional ideas without basis in truth. Delusions are without foundation, for they have no roots in your mind. In this manner, by consciously exercising a choice of that which you allow to become part of your mind, by deliberately planting only positive seeds in the garden of the subconscious, you will not only set about an eventual harvesting of the greatest bumper crop of good ever to enter your life. But more importantly, you will be building up a habit of positive thinking that will become easier and easier day by day. Eventually, you will no longer have to struggle with positive and negative, good and evil, truth and illusion. You will ally yourself with the forces for good in the universe and achieve an attunement and an effortlessness in life that once seemed impossible of imagining. The mental diet. What are these thoughts that we're going to refuse to entertain? They are any thoughts that might, in the smallest or greatest manner, cast into a pessimistic or poor light yourself, your family, your friends, your social group, your state, your nation, or the entire human race. They are, in short, negative thoughts of any type, regardless of whether they seem personally aimed at you yourself or even at an inanimate object. Now, don't be blind about this and say, oh, I never think negatively. And don't be fearful about it and say, I couldn't manage to concentrate on that sort of thing for 30 days. Don't say you haven't got time. Don't say it won't work. We needn't even point out how and why each of these attitudes destroys the goal even before the experiment has begun. Before you start the 30-day mental diet, spend a day or two observing how your mind is working. Carry a notebook and pencil with you if you will and keep a record of each negative thought you entertain for a period of 2 days. The result will astound you and convince you beyond all doubt of the absolute necessity of embarking on the mental diet. This is going to be no easy time. Discarding every negative thought for a period of 30 days, but it's something that you absolutely must do. Until you become master of your thinking, you will never become master of your fate. If you fall from the path of your resolve and entertain negative thoughts, become depressed, apprehensive, pessimistic, there's nothing to do but start over. You must negotiate 30 days of positive thinking without any serious intrusion of negative thought. It is exceptionally important that you do this thing. Let nothing stand in your way. During the period of your mental diet, you will be helped by understanding exactly what it is you're doing. You are training your mind to obey you rather than you obey it. You are training yourself to think more of less and less of more. In other words, you're developing the habit of concentration as well as the habit of positive thinking. Too many thoughts. We humans think altogether too much on altogether too many things. In the space of a single moment, our minds may embrace a hodgepodge of unrelated ideas and half-formed conceptions, such as could not be found on the printed page outside of the Encyclopedia Britannica. We jump helter-skelter from one idea to the next, unguided, unguarded, seizing on whatever is presented to us across the moving screen of mind and declaring it to be real. We start the subconscious mind moving in one direction, halted, started off in another, recall it, excuse me, send it off again, recall it, literally hundreds of times each day. We have developed habits of absolutely undisciplined thinking, and very often, where any discipline at all is present, it is aimed at negative thinking. One moment we are happy and entertain happy thoughts. Then a shadow crosses the face of the sun and we entertain unhappy thoughts. A friend pays us a compliment and we feel important in vain. An acquaintance gets down on us and we entertain thoughts of resentment and bitterness. Always we wait for impetus from outside to determine what thoughts we will accept and which we will reject. Thus, we become victims of every wind that blows and every twig that falls. And the temper of our lives is determined by countless unending streams of circumstances over which we have no control. Scarce indeed is the man who sets himself up to accept only certain thoughts and beliefs, and firm in his faith and foundation outwaits the world to achieve his ends. The sea and the mountain, the storm and the stars shall not persevere against such a man, and he shall move the very ends of the earth. Scarce indeed is the man who sets himself up to accept only certain thoughts and beliefs, and firm in his faith and foundation outwits or outweights the world to achieve his ends. The sea and the mountain, the storm and the stars shall not persevere against such a man, and he shall move the very ends of the earth. Do we think? As human beings, we've been tricked into believing that we think. In other words, we believe we make thoughts. It is a peculiar thing that we believe this, since no one has ever been able to say where a thought comes from, what it is made, where it is made, or from what it is made. But nonetheless, most treatises on the mind hold that man thinks up things and makes up thoughts. Yet, if you carefully analyze the process of thought, you will find that it is not you who thinks at all, but it is rather you who observe thoughts as they flit across your consciousness. Stated differently, it is as if the real you occupied a still and guarded position in the very recesses of your being, from which you observe a purely mental world that consists entirely of thoughts. These thoughts parade across your consciousness in a never ending stream, following one upon the other unceasingly. Since you select and add to you, others you reject. Some you select and add to you, others you reject and send on their way. But the plain and irrevocable fact is that it is not you who sets the stream of thoughts in motion. If you doubt this, try to stop your thought. You will find that all your efforts cannot stop your thinking, for the essence of being is observation, contemplation, and choice. You will find that all your efforts cannot stop your thinking, for the essence of being is observation, contemplation, and choice. Observation, contemplation, and choice are your thoughts, if you are conscious of your thoughts. And though you may slow the stream of thoughts a very great deal and examine each thought presented to you with much more care, still they come. These thoughts from out of nowhere, exhibiting themselves before your consciousness, demanding of you that you establish a position and accept some while you reject others. A writer who sits down and writes a novel does not think of his story and his character. He simply puts himself in the position of someone who's going to write a story. Then he observes the thoughts and ideas that cross his consciousness. On and on they come, and he rejects them until finally there comes an idea which appeals to him. This idea he takes into himself, examines, and then accepts. Now, instead of just being in a position to write a story, he is in a position of writing a story about a man who is, let us say, alone on a desert island. He wonders how the man got there, and on the stream of thoughts come, and he accepts one, and now he's writing a story about a man who was marooned on a desert island by pirates. So it goes with each of the facets and details of his story. In no case does he think them up. His entire story, once assembled and written, is simply evidence of the thousands of choices he has made from the thoughts that have streamed through his mind. He has not thought up a thing. He has simply exercised choice. His story tells you what he has accepted. Nothing will ever tell you the millions of ideas and thoughts which he has rejected. We choose thoughts. Let the writer who authors a story, each of us, author his own life by his choice of what thoughts he will accept and which he will reject. Each of our lives is a story, unfounded by the silent, contemplative author who dwells within us, who does nothing more than accept and reject, who is involved only in making choices. This indwelling self says, this is so, this is not so. I believe this. I feel fine in this circumstance. I feel badly in this circumstance. This is the indwelling self. I am great. I am nothing. There is hope. There is despair. And each of these choices is manifested in the physical world. We are today living testimonies to the choices we have made from the thoughts that have streamed through our minds. We are literally products of the thoughts we've chosen to accept. We are what we believe we are. That only, nothing more or less. So it is that the mental diet upon which we are about to embark is so important. We have assured the indwelling self that it can be anything it accepts and has faith in. And we are now about to develop it the habit of choosing only those thoughts and ideas that will constructively add good unto it. We're teaching ourselves to accept only good. We're teaching ourselves to reject all evil. We are deliberately compelling ourselves to accept all love, all kindness, all hope, all joy, all expansion, all abundance, all health, all vigor. We are deliberately compelling ourselves to reject all suffering, all sorrow, all depression, all morbidness, all inferiority, all aches and pains. We're saying nothing is true but the great and the good and the beautiful. Only these will we add to ourselves. For 30 days we stand guard while the habit forms. Thereafter, though we may relax a little, we will not let go our centennial, for we know that we are only what we accept from the thoughts that come to us, and more than ever the wisdom of Jesus is brought home. As you believe, so shall it be done unto you. So what we're really focusing on is observation, contemplation, and choice in reference to the thoughts that we have conviction and therefore have faith in. St. Augustine is stated as saying, I, Lord, went wandering like a strayed sheep, seeking you with anxious reasoning. Though without, I had to figure out that you were within me. I went around the streets and squares of the city seeking you, and I did not find you, because in vain I sought you outside of myself when you were always within me. Heed the silent dweller and the resources of your being. Heed the silent dweller in the recesses of your being. Know that to him all things are possible according to what he accepts. You are what you choose to be, and your choice is made in the mind. Seek the high and forsake the low. A man adds all things unto himself simply by taking a position with impregnable faith, impregnable faith. Rising above circumstance. The world is too much with us, and we think far too much. The world is too much with us, and we think far too much. In the process of our 30-day diet, we must learn to slow the stream of our thoughts. We must learn to deny the final reality of the physical world about us. The first of these aims may be accomplished by a simple breathing exercise and meditation. The latter is far more difficult. It is a fine thing to awake in the morning full of the exaltations of the vision that has come to us in the night, to rise from bed full of a vague resemblance of a brilliance and a peace that surpassed everything. We're uplifted, quickened with new faith and new resolve. For a few minutes, we are nearly convinced that we have found the way, but how easily we let go of our faith and how stupidly. Maybe that's not the right word. Not stupidly, but like we fail to understand how important that this is. For example, if there's a spot on a suit we decided to wear, or our best dress has sprung a seam. The toaster isn't working properly and our toast is burned. We spill our milk or our coffee, or somebody else does. The car doesn't start or we miss our bus. We receive a fancy slight on the street. It's a bad day. Nothing ever seems to go right for us. The vision is long gone, for we seem to be little ants in a limitless universe, hemmed in on all sides by destructive and malicious forces, and by designing and praying beings. We're angry and resentful. Thus we are victimized. Thus we denied the magnificent indwelling self. Thus we are prompting the universal subconscious mind in those very directions we do not wish to go. Therefore, because we've accepted the physical world about us as having a higher quality than the world that exists only in mind, we have become pawns in a game of physical fate over which we have no control, or so we think, but we do, because we can focus upon our thoughts and we can choose through what? Contemplation, observation, and choice. But most important, observe the thought, contemplate the thought, see whether or not it's good or bad, and then we can choose in between. And we do that consciously all the time. This is how you work your mental diet. It matters not where the thought comes from, whether it filters to your consciousness in the silence of your bedroom, or whether it comes to you in the clatter of a busy work a day world. If you accept it, then it becomes part of you and will be added to you in the physical world. Therefore, you are continually accepting premises and convictions that are forced upon you by the circumstances and the people and the events you meet, even though they are often very contrary to what you really desire. It is this we mean when we say the world is too much with us. Judge not by appearance, said Jesus. If you would win your way to the manifestation of those things that are your goals, you must not be swayed from your conviction and faith by any of the events or circumstances you meet in your daily life. Whatever is contrary to your belief, you must reject as not having reality, as being only temporary, a temporary thing, a detour on the road you follow, not a setback at all, but a necessary path to follow. Wow. This really helps me explain, like, I'll work very hard at being totally focused, and then I'll go to, say, a little well, they don't really have corner stores here, but go to a gas station or something like that, or be going somewhere, and it's the negative energy or how people come off, or they're stuck in their ways, and how you have to be mindful of the thoughts that you project and wherever that they're at, and just keep a pleasant attitude, most importantly, within yourself. So you have to be so mindful of that all the time. Whatever is contrary to your belief, you must reject as not having reality, as being only a temporary thing, a detour on the road you follow, not a setback at all, but a necessary path to follow, for the whole plan rests in universal mind, and though it may seem at the moment to be going against your desires, have no fear. Have no fear. That's easy to say, especially when you're going through it yourself and you really don't know what's going on and you're trying to stay focused and you feel deep within like you're losing it. We will accept from the thought things in the world around us only those which add to our faith and our conviction in the goals we have set or in ourselves. All other thought things we reject as being only temporary and lacking final reality. So that means, like, when something happens and it's not good, okay, you acknowledge it, but the main thing that you focus upon in your head is that it's only temporary and that it's not going to be dominant within you. That's the most important thing. All other thought things we reject as being only temporary and lacking final reality. Thus, in the inner resources of our beings, we maintain a place of quiet assurance and contemplation, steadfast always in our knowledge that our faith will become manifest in our lives. It is then we who set the temper of our thoughts. It is then we who achieve mastery over our fates. Our positions are